Welcome to Seasonality. Seasonality, that's something that you intuitively understand. You've made orders before around Christmas time, and you know that sales are going to go up, not just because your product or your category is necessarily a Christmas or holiday related or even winter related product, but high tides raise all ships, and people enter in the fourth quarter of the year looking to spend money. And so seasonality is something that you're used to, you're accustomed to. But there is a far more precise formula that we are going to incorporate into our system that we will use to accurately adjust our sales forecasts for every month of the year based on seasonality. And as you can imagine, seasonality is something that is mathematical. And so what we're going to do, which is going to be a lot of fun, it's very simple, is we're going to build a seasonality index. So like I said, the best way to adjust for seasonality in a forecast setting as you're actually doing math is to create a seasonality index. The index consists of a value for each specific forecast period that reflects the relationship of each period's demand to the average demand over the complete seasonal cycle. So let's say, for example, we take 12 months and then we average those months. Whatever that average is, we're going to assign a value of 1. Now, if the seasonality for a period results in a demand greater than the average demand, it will be represented by a number that is greater than 1. So if you are selling toys, you will see numbers greater than 1 in November and December. Conversely, you may see numbers dip below 1 in February and March. So let's look at some calculations. I've color-coded this so you can see how the math works. The first thing we did is we took an average. Look at the yellow number. The yellow number is the average of 12 months. It's 1,705. The green number is the first month. That is one period in the entire year that represents sales of 984 units. Let's say your one product that we're working with does really well in November and say October through February, but then sales dip in March. Well, March is going to be below the demand of 1705. So we take 984, the sales in March, and we divide it by the average, 1705, and we end up with an indexed value for the month of March of 0.58. 984 units is 0.58% of the average, which is 1705. So basically, you're running about 60% of your average sales. That's it. It's nothing more complicated than that. Let me give this to you one more time. First thing we do is we average 12 months of sales and get the average number. Then we assign that number the value of 1. Then we divide the monthly totals into that number, and if it's above the average, it'll be a higher than 1 value. If it's below the average, it'll be below a value of 1. So March is not your best sales month. Now, May is your worst, but March is about 58% of what your average is. As you can look at these numbers, and you can see some of these numbers are really great. I mean, you can intuitively see that for some reason, August did really well. Don't know why, but it's above the number 1. October starts to pick up, November, December, and you're doing great all the way up through March. And then you stumble for a few months, and then you pick right back up again. That's seasonality. Again, the math is super easy. All you have to do is average all the values for 12 months, then divide the average by each month's value. With these values, you can see how each month compares to the average. Now just think what we could do with 2 years of data. Now one thing about the Amazon platform is that their API will only give you 3 months of data, and that changes. It could change by the time you're listening to this video, but it has been historically that you can get 3 months worth of data from the API. However, you can go into Seller Central and you can get 2 years of data. Now you're going to find out when we're working on the lab. This is the lecture. It's kind of like, like I said, it's kind of like a college experience. This is the lecture. Then we're going to go to the program. That'll be the lab. But when you're in the lab and you're working with your numbers, I'm going to show you how to capture, if you're an Amazon seller, 2 years of sales data. Because 2 years of data gets you a much better index. And that's why I want you to get 2 years. It's important. 2 years of seasonality index on your more mature products will give you much better numbers. Now, how does that work? Now, I'm going to bring my cursor in here, and let's look at demand for 2001. There it is right there. The average was 625. Now, let's look at demand. Oh, someone didn't adjust their number for April. See why it's important to do that? It's baked into the cake now. So this is the following month. The first year, the seasonality index is for March is 0.53. Look what that event did to us. It skewed our numbers. That's why we needed this one to pull us up. See, 2 years of data is better. We're going to do the same thing for the second year. We're going to average it like we saw on the slide before this. 1705 is the average. And then what we do is we get two different annual seasonality indexes, and then we average those two together so that the average 2-year index is far more accurate. It's more smoothed out. When you have mature products, this is something you're able to do. Now, the seasonality index, if you have 2 years of data, is far more accurate. It's more smooth. See, you can tell just by the fact that someone left that data there. Okay, that would be me. And that skewed us a bit. But April 2002 picked us back up. It's not perfectly accurate, but we're still going to work with it because we baked it into our cake. And this is now our new seasonality index after 2 years of data. Okay, that's why we ask you to get 2 years of data, because you can get a much better, more accurate, more smoothed out value for your seasonality index. So now that we have a seasonality index, what are we going to do with it? Well, we're going to factor it in to our forecast for our forecast horizon that we make. There's going to be a couple of different steps we're going to take. I'm not going to confuse you with that now, but we're going to work with the seasonality index to come up with the most accurate forecast we can for the forecast horizon we're working with. Now, just a quick reminder, we're dealing with numbers, and that's why I wanted to show you a different season. This is a summer season. Numbers are numbers. I don't care if it's snowing, if it's raining, or if it's 110 degrees outside. Seasonality is math, and you can obviously be intuitive about it. You can have good business sense about what's coming, but make sure you stick to your math, because the seasonality index is just simply accurate for your business with your products in your categories on the platforms you sell on, and that's what you need to focus on as you're sharpening your skills to be a great inventory manager. So that's going to do it with this video. And now that we've got the basics out of the way, it's time to really crunch some numbers and figure out our forecast, and that's what we're going to be doing in the next videos. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks so much. Thanks for watching. Inventory Boss helps e-commerce sellers increase profitability by balancing their business through solid inventory management best practices. Visit inventoryboss.com today and get all of our training and the use of our cloud-based software for an initial price of only $10 for the first 30 days. Get started today.